and welcome back to lesson 1.4, video number 2, where we're going to continue multiplying our integers. And in this one, we're going to be multiplying some integers that are actually written as exponents, as you probably called them in elementary. Hopefully your elementary teacher explained to you a little bit more, but if not, we're certainly going to go into depth. So I really need you to look, listen, and learn. And then you're going to pause the video before you write down the information that I'm going to put here. So let's talk about this. And using these exponents, what we have here is 7 to the second power. Let's talk about what all that means, every part of it. First of all, we have the 7. The 7 is the base. This is the base. Well, I'll tell you what, if I can't start writing a little bit more neatly, I'm going to have a cow. 7 is the base. The 2 is the exponent. And one thing you need to know, this entire thing, the base and the exponent combined all together, we call that the power. So you could say 7 to the second power. You can say 7 raised to the power of 2. You could say 7 squared. All those things are acceptable. Now let's talk about each one of these parts. The base and the exponent. The base, that is the factor. The base is the factor. That is the number that's going to be multiplied. And the exponent tells us the number of times the base is, having a hard time writing today, man, I'll tell you what, is multiplied by itself. I can start writing clearly. So that, in other words, in this particular case, 7 to the second power, we're going to go 7 times 7. That's what this means. That makes sense. You kind of knew that before. Hopefully I've added a little bit more information to you on the parts of this power. Now we have to look at something a little tiny bit different. We have a negative 7 squared. Now the interesting thing about these exponents is that exponents only affect what they are attached to. So in this particular case, negative 7 squared, I'm just going to tell you what it is. This means negative times 7 times 7. Or you could say negative 1 times 7 times 7. Either one of those is an acceptable way to write this. So that's probably different than what your elementary teacher said. Your elementary teacher probably said negative 7 squared gave you negative 7 times negative 7. Well, now we're learning that's not the case because that exponent only affects what it's attached to. So if I want that 7 to be negative and I want to multiply negative 7 twice, I would have to write it as I just showed you in this one. In parentheses, these grouping symbols, I'm grouping together the negative and the 7, and I'm squaring that entire thing. So this particular one would be negative 7 times negative 7. Okay? So these are the different ways that you will see exponents used. And we need to be able to look at them and say, this is how we evaluate the expression. So moving right along, we're going to do some examples. Now, I went kind of fast there. Make sure you pause, go back, and write that down as you need to before you join us here. So in number 7, we have negative 5 squared. So if you refer to the notes right above, you just notice that this is going to be, and I like to write negative 1 times 5 times 5. Well, we know that 5 times 5, we're multiplying two integers. They're both the same sign. They're both positive. We get 25. And now we have negative 1 times 25. We're multiplying. The signs are opposite, so we get negative 25 as our answer. One more example before you write these down. Here you go. So now we're going to take that negative 5 and we're going to actually group it and make it a solid negative 5 that we are squaring. And in this particular case, you would have negative 5 times negative 5. We're multiplying. The signs are the same. Anytime you multiply it, the sign's the same. We just learned the answer to that is positive. So in this particular case, you would get 25. Go ahead and write that down and join me for the next two examples. Alrighty, number 9, and the quantity of -2 raised to the power of 3. So -2 cubed, and in this particular case, what are we going to have? Since that -2 is grouped together, and that 3 is attached to that grouping symbol, we actually have -2 times -2 times -2. Well, we just learned right here, we're multiplying, and we have 3. We have an odd number of negatives. I know in my head an odd number of negatives is going to give me a negative product. But I'm going to prove it and work it out. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to go -2 times -2. Signs the same. The answer is positive. 2 times 2 is 4. And that's going to be multiplied by the -2. I am multiplying a negative and a positive. My answer is negative. 4 times 2 is 8. I get -8. Pretty straightforward. One more. We have the -6 squared. There's no grouping symbols. That exponent is only attached to the 6. So I know to write this out, I would have, oops, and I almost forgot to do what I like to do, -1 times 6 times 6. I'm multiplying the like signs. 6 and 6, they're both positive. I get positive 36. Multiply that by the -1. Signs are opposite. My answer is negative. Anything times 1 is itself. So I would get -36. Go ahead and write those down and join me on the next slide. Our one real life application, number 11, says a football jersey is marked down $10 each week for 3 weeks. Find the total change in price of the football jersey. So we like to mark our text. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reread it, and I'm going to say a football jersey is marked down $10. Well, the words marked down indicate something very specific. When it goes down, that's negative. So I'm going to represent that marking down $10 as an integer, -10. And then it says each week for 3 weeks. So this each week right here, that tells me I'm going to multiply something. That's what these words start to mean to us. And then for 3 weeks. So I know that's a 3. And then it says find the total change in the price. So I want to find the total change. So now I've actually written my math problem out for me as I mark the text. -10 times 3. I'm multiplying. I have opposite signs. My answer is negative, so I would get -30. Now, -30 is the integer, so you could say -30 as the total change, or you could say the price is marked down $30. So as an integer, -30. In a word sentence, it wouldn't make sense to say -$30, so we use those words marked down to indicate that that means that the price went down. Ladies and gentlemen, that ends this video other than our quick writes. So real quickly, you have 2 to do after this video. Writing the complete sentence in your own words to explain why -3 squared and the quantity of -3 squared have different answers. And then E, evaluating -4 cubed. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, please write down any questions you have regarding multiplying integers, or put a question mark next to highlight a section of something in your notes that you feel you need more support from Mr. Ross on. Ladies and gentlemen, you can begin working on your assignment. You don't have to. Remember, a quality of 45 minutes max. If you are working on your assignment, you come across the problem you have a question on, that generates questions that you can ask Mr. Ross. And that is absolutely fantastic. Please be accountable. Your notes should be taken with quality. Remember, autograph all of your work with excellence. You rock. I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. See ya.